Last Sunday after worship, just over 30 of us watched the film Defining Hope in the Fellowship Hall. We were able to watch it during its premiere week across the country. It debuted at the beginning of November, which is National Hospice and Palliative Care Month. And the producer, Carolyn Jones, made this film after spending 4 years traveling around the country interviewing nurses for a book and a film project called The American Nurse. And so this project grew out of that one and her conversations with nurses about how they feel we aren't dying so well in this country. And she learned that we're missing opportunities to have conversations and make better choices about our wishes, conversations that can really help patients and their families as they face the end of life. Now, as it happens, last week, a couple of weeks ago, I was also listening to an interview with Dr. Atul Gawande, a surgeon at Brigham and Women's, who some of you may know, one of his recent books is called Being Mortal. And Charlie mentioned that the other day, last week, as a good resource when we were finishing watching the movie. He said that was a good resource book. So anyway, Dr. Gawande says that being mortal is about the struggle to cope with the constraints of our biology, with the limits set by genes and cells and flesh and bone, and that medical science has given us remarkable power to push against those limits. But he worries about the damage that can be done when we fail to acknowledge that this power is finite and always will be. But I don't really want to talk about dying today. Dr. Gawande identified some questions that he and other doctors and loved ones need to know the answers to if they are really to care for our well-being, to care for us as we die. And this is a list of 5 questions. And one of them, the last one, I think is really helpful for us to ask anytime. What would a good day look like? Hence my sermon title. So maybe on a good day, you wake up rested, you say good morning to someone you love, take a hot shower, have a healthy breakfast, spend some time puttering around your house. Maybe you use your skills, creativity, and curiosity during the day at work or at home or at school so that by the end of the day, you know you've done something meaningful and worthwhile with your time. Maybe you have the opportunity to do some reading or thinking, hopefully some learning. Maybe you go outside and walk or get some other kind of exercise. Maybe you choose enjoyable foods at the grocery store and listen to some music while you cook a meal. Maybe you dance or sing in the kitchen or call a friend to catch up and see what's happening in their lives. Maybe you spend some time in the evening making something for someone, or cutting the grass, or finishing a house project, or watching your favorite TV show. Maybe on a good day, you go to bed glad for the day. You put your head on the pillow and feel grateful for your life, for the people you love, and the people who love you, for the relationships that tell the story of your life. I wonder, what would a good day look like for you? The writer, Annie Dillard, says, how we spend our days is how we spend our lives. And I think she's right. If we can find moments of happiness each day, though we may also have moments of sadness or disappointment or frustration, on balance, our lives will be made up of all those days together, the ones in which we can see and know happiness, the ones in which we appreciate the simplest things, which are usually the best. I chose the scripture from Luke this morning because as I read it, it seemed like a good reminder for us not to miss what's right in front of us. The last sentence is an encouragement to embrace light within us and let it shine while we still can. The passage in whole can be seen in the context of Jesus making his way to Jerusalem. He's trying to teach people along the way, but he encountered resistance. He got frustrated at times. He may have even gotten exasperated. Certainly when he heard that the Ninevites paid attention to a goofball like Jonah and told them to repent, but weren't listening to him. That was frustrating. The Message translation, which Wesley just read, says, "The mood of this age is all wrong. Everybody's looking for proof, but you're looking for the wrong kind. All you're looking for is something to titillate your curiosity, satisfy your lust for miracles." People are all caught up in looking for evidence before they decide to simply accept what's standing right in front of them. Jesus accuses the Pharisees of being too concerned with how they look on the outside instead of how they feel on the inside. If the Pharisees gave as much time to their internal thoughts, to their devotion and practice in loving and worshiping God, they might see that following rules of specific practice is sort of missing the point. It's easy to get distracted by needing things to look or be a certain way. But everything will be much clearer if you let this light shine within you, if you lead with the strength of God that's already inside of you. Sometimes the simplest, most important things are right in front of us, but we let other concerns or fears pull us away from enjoying what we have. We want to hold out, wait, and hope that something better will be just around the corner. And nothing could be more true when you're dealing with treating a difficult illness. The reason that Dr. Gowanda asks his patients what a good day looks like is to make sure that he and his colleagues don't miss opportunities to improve their patients' well-being in the simplest of ways, never mind the more complicated ones. Even as he helps people navigate treatment options versus quality of life, he has grown more and more aware of how important it is to ask what a good day looks like, so he doesn't miss knowing what that person can look forward to tomorrow. What can be hard to accept in those situations, and in any part of our lives, is that hope is not a plan. I've kept a little framed quotation in my house for many years that reads, "Pray to God, but hammer away." I think God endowed us with so many ways to care for ourselves, our loved ones, and our neighbors, that the first and best way to honor God's gifts to us is to do our best to use those gifts in all the ways we can for others. Dr. Gowanda, for him, that means performing surgeries, assessing results, and gauging treatments, but it also means remembering to ask questions directly and to listen carefully to where people are in understanding their illness, to understand their goals and priorities, and to hear their fears and worries about the future. He talks about caring for the well-being of his patients, not just treating their diseases. And I want to suggest today that these kinds of questions that he asks, and this approach to well-being as a whole, instead of problem-solving in specific instances, is a good approach at any time of life, not just when you become ill. I just wanted to tell you about a study that was performed that he mentions in the book. This was at Mass General Hospital in 2010, and it yielded some interesting results. So these researchers in this study randomly assigned 151 patients who had stage 4 lung cancer, one of two possible approaches to treatment. Half of them received their usual oncology care, and the other half received their usual oncology care plus parallel visits with a palliative care specialist. So those are specialists in preventing and relieving suffering in patients. And to see one of those specialists, no determination of whether you are dying immediately or not is required. So if a person has a complex illness, these specialists are happy to help. And so the ones in this study discussed with patients their goals and priorities for if and when their conditions worsened. And the result was that those who saw a palliative care specialist stopped chemotherapy sooner, entered hospice much earlier, experienced less suffering at the end of their lives, and lived 25% longer. So he goes on to describe no less surprising results for people entering hospice and also choosing to see that kind of specialist. And so he writes that the lesson seems almost Zen. You live longer only when you stop trying to live longer. So what I wonder is, can we apply that to other places in our lives? Would we be happier if we stopped trying so hard to be happy? This month, the cover story in National Geographic is called The Search for Happiness. It looks into the lives of people in 3 of the most joyful places on the planet: Costa Rica, Denmark, and Singapore. So the author of this article suggests that there are 3 different strands of happiness: pleasure, purpose, and pride, which are woven together in a way that create lasting joy. Costa Rica is a place where pleasure is part of everyday life. In Costa Rica, a powerful blend of family bonds, universal health care, faith, lasting peace, equality, generosity, all culminate in a rich recipe for enjoying life day by day. Some of you may know the Grahal family, Tara and Randy and their children, Mason and Lucy, and I sat down with them recently to hear about their lives. Randy was born and raised in Costa Rica, and Tara lived there 6 years. And so what I heard from them is that people's focus in Costa Rica is not on things. It's on relationships, on community, and on the beauty around you. They spend most of the day outside, which, given the temperate climate, is possible. People generally work 6 days a week, but the phrase you hear on the street all day long is pura vida, which literally translates to pure life, but means it's all good. And though it seems maybe inconceivable to us, the general feeling in Costa Rica is that there is little to get upset or stressed about because everything works out. Everyone works at their jobs or school or at home, and on Sunday you play soccer and go to church. In this country, it seems that sometimes we even take a strange pride in being busy, though the stress that accompanies that kind of thinking and way of life can cause real problems. So many people in our country experience stress around healthcare. The fears of its affordability or bankruptcy are incredibly real and staggeringly disruptive. You may not be aware that annually since 2012, the United Nations has commissioned what is called the World Happiness Report. And it suggests that human happiness is driven by 6 factors: freedom, generosity, health, social support, income, and trustworthy governance. So countries that keep these things in mind when developing public policy see the greatest results in terms of the overall well-being and happiness of their population. In 2017, the top 10 countries on the list were Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Switzerland, Finland, the Netherlands, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and Sweden. So that's right, we are not in the top 10. We are currently at 14th. The recent results show that in America, the indicators for health and income have risen. But the 4 remaining indicators for freedom, generosity, social support, and trustworthy governance have fallen. In short, happiness in our country is failing primarily due to social rather than economic causes. So I cannot speak for each of you. I cannot speak for us as a church or a town or a state, but what I can say is that social failings are the responsibility of us all. We've spoken quite a bit in recent months about our desire to have civil conversations across political party lines. We celebrate the character of our town, which is politically diverse, though not racially or ethnically so. But whatever our differences or similarities, we certainly share the desire to enjoy our lives, to spend time in meaningful ways, and care for those we hold most dear, while we also look out for our neighbors, whether they come from near or far. And so I simply want to encourage you to live your life the way you live your days. Ask yourself what a good day would look like tomorrow, and then appreciate those parts of the day that make it good. Your eye is a lamp, lighting up your whole body. If you live wide-eyed in wonder and belief, your body fills up with light. Let that light illuminate everything that sits right in front of you, the simplest pleasures, the purpose and creativity with which you approach your day. Every morning, feel pride in the relationships you develop, the service you offer, and the love you show. I found a short poem written by William Stafford, who was a former poet laureate that I'd like to share. He kept a daily journal for 50 years and composed nearly 22,000 poems, of which roughly 3,000 were published. But it wasn't until he was 46 that his first major collection of poetry was printed. And Wikipedia tells me about him that his gentle quotidian style has been compared to Robert Frost. His poems are accessible, sometimes deceptively so, with a conversational manner that's close to everyday speech. So I offer you this poem by William Stafford entitled Any Morning. Just lying on the couch and being happy, only humming a little, the quiet sound in the head. Trouble is busy elsewhere at the moment. It has so much to do in the world. People who might judge are mostly asleep. They can't monitor you all the time, and sometimes they forget. When dawn flows over the hedge, you can get up and act busy. Little corners of this, pieces of heaven left lying around, can be picked up and saved. People won't even see that you have them. They are so light and easy to hide. Stafford died at his home in Lake Oswego, Oregon, on August 28, 1993, having written a poem that morning containing the lines, "You don't have to prove anything. My mother said, just be ready for what God sends." I couldn't agree more.